The brand new season of World of Tanks is here right now, and of course when you log on you will be faced with a new loading screen and of course the brand new season pass, along with some of the new season pass items that you can purchase, some of the free tanks. We are going to cover one tank in particular, and we'll be covering the other vehicles in this season pass as we go along, including the Mauer Breaker, including the Object 292, and we'll be having a look at some of the other free reward vehicles, including the IS-3A and the Sentinel AC-4, which you can get at level 25. So this is the first one you can get. But most importantly, we are looking at the Ultimate Season Pass vehicle today, which is the Project Murat. This is a brand new Tier 10 French auto-loading medium tank that has the top speed of 60 kilometers an hour and feels very, very nice in-game to play. And it offers something a little bit different, considering that this tank gets 12 degrees of gun depression, one of the highest in the game and better than even some of the British medium tanks, which makes this very, very good. And you don't have to have the hydropneumatic suspension to be able to do it. So without further ado, let's have a look at what this tank is all about, how you can get it firstly, and unfortunately it is part of the Ultimate Season Pass. Now if you want to purchase the Ultimate Season Pass, it costs you 6,000 gold right now, and it comes with 25 levels on the Season Pass itself. You'll also be able to get a Andre Lemaire commander, which is a 3D standard commander, and essentially you can get him in the game, but it's more about this tank right here, and of course you will never see it really at this cheap of a price ever again unless you purchase the Ultimate Season Pass, which is in all intents and purposes a pretty decent deal for a tier 10 premium that isn't a premium. I'll get onto that in a second. But yeah, you get the 25 levels instantly, and of course you're paying about 4,000 gold for this tank, the commander, and those 25 levels. So it's really, really not a bad price if you're after a new tier 10 tank without having to grind through, you know, a million XP. So with that out of the way, in my opinion, it's probably worth it if you do play a lot of World of Tanks and you are happy to spend the extra 4,000 gold, which equates to about, I want to say, like £15, something in that region. I mean, we could have a look real quick in the gold section. Apparently you can't buy gold right now. That's always a good one. Wargaming obviously not enjoying that. But yeah, the gold value, I think is about £15. Either way, what are the statistics of this vehicle? How can you set it up to be pretty effective? I've played about 5 games in this thing so far, and we'll showcase some of the best ones and of course give my opinion on this tank initially. And I'm sure you'll see me playing this on stream on Friday, where we will be live streaming again. So maybe I'll upload videos and then live stream a little bit more. I did upload a community post for you guys as a little bit of an update. Maybe we'll live stream a little bit more often, and maybe a couple hours every now and again. Now this tank has a 3-shot autoloader with very good accuracy. Unfortunately, not the best damage per minute for a medium tank. This is fully kitted out with everything that you can use, perks, commander skills, equipment, and we only have 2,500 DPM. For example, a Tiger 1 at tier 7 has pretty much the same damage per minute as you, although this quite honestly has much better effective damage per minute because you can unload all of your shells within 5 seconds and deal 1,170 damage, which is quite nice and a very nice one to kick out a lot of damage against those lightly armoured vehicles. But more importantly, this tank has 60 kilometers an hour and it has one of the best power to weight ratios of any tank in the game right now, especially considering that it's a medium tank. It really does blow a lot of the vehicles out of the water, and with a 28.57 horsepower to ton ratio, yeah, it's ridiculous. And that allows you to scoot around the map, reposition, and this tank is definitely going to be up there for some of the higher skill cap players in the game. You know, it has that ability to do, you know, the ridiculous damages because of the fact that you have that speed and the mobility. But is it necessarily the most OP? Is that damage per minute limiting? And to all intents and purposes, yes, the damage per minute is very limiting with this vehicle. You are not going to be able to easily do 10,000 damage. It would take you 4 minutes of straight firing, penning every single shot, and when typical games in World of Tanks last about 6 minutes, and that's on the higher side, it's very difficult for you to be able to do that. And of course you have to hit every shot, you have to have the opportunities to hit every shot, and yeah, it just doesn't really work out that well. So you were going to get extremely lucky as well as be a very, very good player to be able to pull off anywhere near 10,000 damage in this vehicle. And of course there are a few benefits though of this tank, is that it is very good at being able to spot. It has 525 meters vision range, but it has 275 meters still concealment in the setup that we've gone for. And I went for this build in the form of going for that spotting role and being the furthest forward, trying to get assistance damage to boost up your marks of excellence if you're after it. Now, I could quite easily swap out both advanced optics and concealment to go with improved ventilation, and then traction system to increase the speed, which is definitely a potential option. I would recommend using gun stabilizer for the increased accuracy, since it's going to be quite nice to have that on your autoloader, and it makes it a lot more accurate and you can hit every shot because you don't want to be missing because your gun's not working properly. So making sure you have the gun stabilizer is going to make this tank a lot better and more consistent to get out all 3 of those shells. But armor wise, yeah, I mean, it isn't great. You have one area that can basically bounce rounds, and it's pretty much a if you're firing standard rounds you will bounce maybe off of this. If you're loading premium, you will not bounce off this turret, unless of course you hit it at a weird angle. And you can see here, just even the rest of the tank, it is a very easy pen. The side armor of the turret is awful, so the side of the turret, terrible, 75mm. The upper plate, 70mm thick, very well angled, so maybe you can bounce off of that. But just look at that gigantic hull armor and the big lower plate, which is just paper, and essentially you're going straight through that, as well as the side is a box of hit points for your enemies to farm. It does get these weird tracks. Don't worry, they don't really do anything. So yeah, there's that. But tank in general, very strong, and I'm really enjoying playing it, and it's something different that you don't see with a lot of these medium tanks in the game right now at tier 10, where you have that super high mobility, flexibility and an autoloader to combine it all into one to make a fairly well balanced vehicle. As much as you will see a ton of them in the game, you'll probably get taken out by a ton of them. Just don't let that bias kind of affect your opinion on this vehicle, because at the end of the day it has horrific damage per minute. It is very much a paper vehicle, and essentially, yeah, you can really destroy this thing very easily. And HE rounds from tank destroyers are going to pepper you. FV4005s are going to have a field day right now. So yeah, just take note of that when you see one of the rears of these vehicles and the side of this vehicle and you're loading standard rounds. Maybe it's worth swapping to HE and trying to pen them through the side armor. But that is kind of the overview of this tank. Just don't really think that they're overpowered, because when you start playing them you realise they're not actually overpowered whatsoever. It is a very well balanced tank in my opinion, which is nice to see, because we've seen a lot of OP vehicles, and you know, I feel like they've done this one actually okay. Maybe on the lower end where it's not as good as maybe some of the other vehicles you could play, but that is what makes World of Tanks good, is that you don't always have to play these meta tanks. So let's jump into the gameplay now, because we've spoken enough about the tank. We've given you a little indication as to some of the equipment slots you can use. Of course you can use whatever you want, I'm just highlighting some of the options. And yeah, hopefully that'll be a good one for you. So let's jump into the actual gameplay now, and I'll see you in a second. Now the first game that we do have is of course on Highway, and we're going to kick it off with a fairly substantial bang as we plough our way straight forward to try and get into position early enough to catch out some of the medium tanks who don't understand just how quick some of these vehicles can get into position, and of course reload to be able to dump out that 1170 damage, which is always nice. So we go straight into this location. We can use the 12 degrees of gun depression, and of course we want to single out one opponent, and unfortunately for the AMX-30, yeah, it's not looking all too good. 1,199 damage there, slightly high rolling with this tank, considering that we get 390 per shell. But yes, a very nice start to the game, and the game actually ends up not going in the way that we'd like, but at least we're able to show off the damage potential of this tank in this game. And of course, I've been working hard to try and produce some more content where we show varied results, and hopefully you've been seeing that with a lot of the tank reviews and stuff, is that it's not always the highest damage results that we show. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't, but hopefully the choices of the actual gameplay that we're showcasing are decent. But unfortunately we take a shot from the right hand side. I'm very surprised that someone could actually even hit that, but apparently they can. So we move over here, we've dealt 2 entire clips there for 2,382 damage. So you can see that even though we have this horrible DPM, if you can hit all your shots, it feels actually not too bad. But you'll soon realise that when you aren't hitting your shots and yeah, you're missing a few, you're ending up, you know, bouncing a few, it feels awful. It feels absolutely awful. And yeah, with so many of these tanks in the game as well, is often the YOLO wagons on the enemy team will just start going into you because they're like, oh, I see another Murat, let me YOLO into him, because yeah, that will be a good trade, 1 for 1 with each other, losing literally like 60% or 70% of your hit points to one another. Yeah, not a good idea, just as a precaution to you guys. But you can see there the turret armor of the Murat not being particularly great, which is of course not the best thing about this tank. But with the 12 degrees of gun depression, you can make the angle really slim, so that it's actually just a difficult shot to hit, which is one of the key things that you have to take note when you're playing up against these things. But the good thing that you're seeing here is, you know, we're able to hold down on a ridge line. We also get the upper plate even more angled when we do go on that ridge line, because of the fact that, you know, you're aiming down, and of course in order for them to hit the hole, they're going to have to hit it at an extreme angle, and it basically just doesn't pen. But of course, if you do expose any of that hull armor, you're going to be getting penned straight through the lower plate, which is just horrendous. I mean, you were getting penned every time, so just be careful when you are cresting ridge lines and trying to get damage. Now, of course, we managed to hit the cupola of the enemy Murat. It doesn't pen or anything, but, you know, typical. But this game has gone pretty bad. I mean, 3,100 damage and 1,300 assist is a decent game, but I mean, we're down by 5 tanks, and the last remaining tanks on our team don't particularly have the most health in the first place. So looks like we may only get a couple of shots out. So yeah, hopefully this clip will be all of the shells. I don't try and YOLO the shot into the standard B, as I don't know what's coming up from behind or anything like that. I don't want to waste a shell and then it bounces, and then yeah, not ideal. But what we'll do is just try and get some shots into the guys that are poking my teammate. Hopefully we can keep him alive just that little bit longer, where we can both have a better game. But yeah, there's only so much you can do in a game like this. And you can see here, going for the side of the turret of the Murat, this is a weak point that you want to go for if you see it on a ridgeline looking at somewhere else. As soon as this tank moves its turret just slightly, it's basically an auto pen. So you just have to be a little bit careful with regards to when you're turning your turret, when you're looking on that ridgeline. So yeah, just make sure your turret is always looking directly in front if you're after getting that extra damage. But with 3,818 damage done, we are now in a bit of a stalemate. I mean, we're down by 8 tanks. They're all just going to YOLO. The standard B comes over the hill, of course. And being a Italian auto reloader, he is definitely going to finish us off if we don't get finished off by the enemy Murat. But we picked up 5,000 damage, just about, and picked up a little bit of assist as well. So you could see in a very short game, 4 minutes and 42 seconds, where we basically fired almost instantly when we were reloaded. We picked up 5,000 damage. It was a very quick game, and of course a lot of damage in that short period of time, but that was us playing at kind of maximum capacity with how many rounds we're dishing out. So you could see how long it will take to pick up that high amounts of damage, and we'll see that in the next game too. So the next game is on Redshire, and this one shows you what that hold down nature of this vehicle's all about. Like we say, you want to get on a ridge, you want to get hold down, and make sure that you make that angle really, really tight, and of course deal damage against people that are going to be poking over. And if you can get yourself into a nice little support role, you can do a lot of damage in this tank. You just have to be careful and make sure that you don't get punished for making those plays, which is kind of why I wanted to show this replay, because, you know, I'm not perfect. This is one of the first few games I've played in a tank. I've never played a tank like this, as I'm sure everyone hasn't really played a tank like this. So this is the bare bones of the sort of gameplay you can really pick off with this tank in the end game, if you know what I mean. Once you've played a few more games, you're going to learn how to take advantage of this tank even more. You're going to be able to know the shell travel speed. It does get APCR as standard, which is perfect. I mean, this is the best round to have as a standard round. Super quick, super high penetration for this one. 268mm to be precise, I believe. And then you get 330mm of heat pen, so you get both of the best rounds in this tank, which is nice. And it allows you to deal with those super heavily armoured tanks like the Maus, the E100, the Type 5 Heavy, when you do come up against them and you need that extra bit of penetration. Although I didn't fire a whole lot of rounds, and in fact I don't even know if I fired an entire clip in the 5 games that we played, because it was just not necessary for like 90% of the time. So yeah, maybe I could have done a little bit more damage in a couple of games if I'd fired a heat clip, but yeah, for the most part, not really necessary at all. So that's nice in terms of silver earning potential. We were running this with a double silver booster to make a little bit of silver back, since I'm poor again. 5 million silver in the bank. Yes, that might seem like a lot to a lot of you, but when you had, you know, 120 million not that long ago, yeah, it feels rather lackluster. And when you've got a ton of tanks still left to buy, yeah, it's going quickly, especially with the equipment on all of the tanks that I've recently been playing. I mean, that's 3 tanks worth of equipment. So yeah, goodbye silver on Titan Eclipse's account. Yeah, brilliant. But either way, I decide, you know what, there's no point in me sitting there trying to trade 1-for-1 with another Murat. So I'm going to go onto the hill area, and hopefully we can deal a bit of damage from a distance using the decent accuracy, and of course getting it into this location where we can get hold down and provide a decent bit of cover with regards to putting the hill in between me and the opponents when I am reloading. So this is something you should always do in your autoloaders, where, you know, you pull back behind the ridges and stuff like that to avoid any damage unnecessarily. So yeah, a nice little play right here, and this is exactly what I'm on about, getting behind the ridge easy as you like. And of course we can try and go for some more damage on this M103 potentially. The light tank gets taken out, which is good, means we aren't going to get spotted as easily. But you can see here, this is what I was after. All of the tanks on the enemy team poking over the ridges to try and get some damage. It's what we want. We want to be able to farm them up as they do it, or overcommit or over peak, and that is how we're going to be able to deal with damage in this game. Now we get spotted, which isn't ideal, and we see ourselves up against a Murat here. We put 2 into him, which is good, and there you go, an extra 2 damaging hits. So you can see, you know, usually you probably pen 2 out of 3 shots. I won't lie. If you consider, you know, sometimes the accuracy is not great. Sometimes you have to go for that 3rd shot because, I mean, there's not any real chance of you penning or anything, but, you know, sometimes you go for it because it's just a case of, well, I'm not going to shoot again, so might as well just go for it. So sometimes you'll see people holding on to 1 shell, which is not a good idea. Hint, hint. But, you know, we hold on to it for a little bit longer, and I knew that there'd be someone poking that ridge line, and there you go, an extra shot of damage. And because the intricate reload is 2.5 seconds, 5 seconds total, you have about a 25-second reload to fully reload and do all of your damage all in once. So you have 25 seconds for that 1,170 damage. So it's not the best, I won't lie. You can deal 3 shots of damage with a standard kind of medium tank, dealing the same amount of damage in about, I want to say, like 18 seconds. And of course you don't have to wait that 20 seconds all in one go. So it really isn't that much of an advantage to have this autoloader. It's not like you're able to, you know, chunk out 1,800 damage or something ridiculous. But that is a balancing feature. That is nice to see. It is good. It is the trade-off of having this autoloader as opposed to not having the autoloader. So this is something that you should be aware of. Now, I make a misplay here. I am not behind the ridge. We get hit once, we get hit twice, We get hit a third time and oh god, not ideal. And we get hit a fourth time. There you go. All through the turret primarily, and yeah, lost basically all my health in a short period of time. And this is the Murat at its finest. I mean, this happens quite often, so you have to be a little bit careful. But yeah, like I was that game. 2,700 damage, make that 3,000, and we've got 1,000 assist as well. But we are now a one-shot for basically every tank in the game, so we have to play super passively and hope that our team aren't complete bots. So yeah, big misplay from me, really cost us a ton of health. Really didn't want to have to take that much damage, and there you go, a full shot clip that didn't really do a whole lot of damage right there. So this is what I mean. If you miss your shells, if you don't do your damage, you can end up with a game like this, where we've had a lot of opportunities to deal damage, but we've only done 3,000, considering how much we've been firing. So yeah, I mean, you have to take that into consideration as well. And if you're a less experienced player, this tank is probably going to be a bit annoying for you to play, because not only do you have to know how to play autoloaders, you have to know how to play the kind of lightly armoured vehicles, and you also need to be able to play high speed vehicles that rely on you mobilising yourself around, and be able to use low DPM vehicles as well, which is all kind of shoved into one tank that isn't bad, but it's kind of one of those things that a brand new player jumping into this as opposed to jumping into an IS4, they're going to struggle a hell of a lot more in this thing. So just keep an eye on that if you're wondering whether you should purchase this. If you are thinking that this will be a tank in the future that you think you'll enjoy, it's worth the investment, because you will not see it at this price ever again. I can guarantee it. Wargaming usually charge these tier 10 premiums at about 22,000 gold, so getting it for 6,000 gold plus the season pass, which you make a lot of gold back, is pretty good in my opinion. And I don't say that a lot, and I'm by the way, I'm not sponsored by Wargaming or anything like that. I'm simply saying from a perspective of trying to get the best deal possible for a tier 10 premium that's pretty fun. Yeah, I mean, this is a good deal. I don't know what else to say. You will not see very many good deals like this in the game as good as this one. So it really is a decent price. And of course you can pay for like 8,000 gold just for a tier 8 premium. So getting this thing for 4,000 gold plus like 25 levels, which give you extra XP at the end of the season, because you'll get there quicker, etc. In my opinion, very worth it. It's like I say with most things, the season passes are the best thing that you can purchase in World of Tanks, whether that's the normal season pass, which is the best value for money, or whether you purchase the ultimate season pass. That's kind of just my opinion on that. Now, at this point in the game, I decide, might as well just try and go in, because, I mean, I'm going to get taken out either way, but maybe we can get a little bit more damage. We hit the Murat there on the move. We try and go for another one, which was a bit of a misplay. But we do spot him, which allows us to get some assist. The ISU bounces off of us, and I was going to ram him, but then I was like, I don't really want to die, because we'd have probably died there, because we weigh absolutely nothing, and then the Centurion Action X just crests the ridge line on the move and pens us, which is typical. But you know, a decent player by the looks of it, 2 marks, and maybe it was actually aimed. It didn't look like it, but that's World of Tanks for you. On console anyway, you just hit on the move all the time. So yeah, a decent game. We didn't actually end up coming top. In fact, it was poached by Shironike or Shironike, who picked up a better game than I did, 6 kills and a bit more damage, but a pretty decent game. And it was basically this consistent damage, getting 4k every single game. I don't think we dropped below that, except for maybe one game, but we got a load more assist in that one. So yeah, a very good tank if you like this sort of tank, but on average in terms of competitiveness, it's probably pretty mediocre / average. But yeah, I really like this tank. I think it's a good idea that Wargaming added it, and I've enjoyed it thoroughly when playing this one. So hopefully you guys did enjoy this review, and of course a little check of what sort of things you can do with this tank, and yeah, my overall opinion, as you can see in the last portion of the video on this vehicle. So hopefully you'll leave your own comments as to whether or not you think this is good. Have I got it completely wrong? Is it overpowered? Is it completely broken? Blah blah blah. Just remember that if you're getting taken out a lot by this thing, it's just because there are a lot. I've been seeing, you know, 12 Murats in one game a lot, like 6 on each team. So yeah, it's probably the fact that there's just a ton of these things as opposed to it being overpowered. But yeah, that's just my opinion. Let me know in the comment section down below, and of course let me know what you think of the new season. There'll be a very interesting video in the Mile Breaker coming up, so just stay tuned for that. It's you know me, I love my medium tanks, my fast tanks, my tank destroyers, my light tanks, my you know, fast heavy tanks. I'm really going to enjoy the Mile Breaker. That's definitely not going to be a salty video whatsoever. But yeah, hopefully you enjoy that one. Either way, it should be funny to see me just getting taken out. But yeah, hopefully you enjoy it, and I'll see you there, and I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day and a fantastic rest of the week. Goodbye.